My fiance spent all of our wedding savings on a gaming PC for her ex because he was depressed, so I canceled everything. Tara and I had been together for 3 years and engaged for 8 months. We'd been saving for the wedding since the day I proposed. We had a joint savings account specifically for it. Every paycheck, both of us put in a set amount. I was doing $800 a month. She was doing $500. After 8 months, we had just over $14,000 in there, and the wedding was 4 months away. I'd already put deposits down on the venue, the caterer, and the photographer. Tara's ex-boyfriend was a guy named Leo. They dated for a year before me. According to Tara, it ended because he was immature and couldn't hold a job. She said she was completely over him, but Leo stayed in the picture. He'd text her every few months with some crisis. Lost his apartment, got fired, car broke down, and Tara always felt bad for him. I told her early on it made me uncomfortable. She said, he's harmless. He's just a mess. I feel sorry for him. I let it go because I trusted her. Then about 2 months before the wedding, Tara started acting different. She was on her phone more, stepping out of the room to take calls, being vague about who she was talking to. I asked her about it and she said it was wedding stuff. One night I checked the savings account to see where we were at for the final venue payment. The balance was $1,200. I stared at it. I refreshed the page. Same number. $1,200 out of $14,000. I scrolled through the transactions. There were 4 large withdrawals over the past 3 weeks. $3,200, $2,800, $4,000, $2,800, all cash. I called Tara. She didn't pick up. I called again. Nothing. She came home 2 hours later and I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open. I said, where's the money? She set her purse down and said, what money? I turned the screen toward her. She looked at it and her face went white. I said, $12,800. Gone. In 3 weeks. Where is it? She sat down and started picking at her nails. Then she said, Leo's been going through a really hard time. I didn't move. She said, he was diagnosed with depression. He lost his job again. He was talking about not wanting to be alive anymore. I had to help him. I said, help him how? She said, he needed a computer for a remote job he was trying to get. And he needed first and last month's rent for a new apartment. And I helped him with some groceries and bills. I said, you spent almost $13,000 on your ex-boyfriend. She said, it wasn't like that. He was in a bad place. I was saving his life. I said, what kind of computer costs that much? She got quiet. Then she said, it was a gaming setup, but he said he needed it for work too. I almost laughed. I said, you bought your ex-boyfriend a gaming PC with our wedding money and you're telling me it was to save his life. She said, you don't understand. He was in crisis. I said, and you didn't think to tell me? You didn't think your fiancé should know you were draining our wedding fund for another man? She said, I knew you'd react like this. I said, like what? Like a person who just found out his fiancé gave away $13,000 to her ex behind his back? She started crying. She said, I was going to pay it back. Leo said he'd pay me back once he got the job. I said, Leo hasn't held a job in the 3 years I've known you. When exactly was he going to pay you back? She didn't answer. I said, the venue payment is due in 2 weeks. The caterer needs the balance next month. Where is that money coming from? She said, we can push things back. We can do a smaller wedding, or we can ask our families to help. I said, you want me to ask my mother to pay for our wedding because you gave our savings to your ex-boyfriend for a gaming computer? She said, stop saying it like that. I said, like what? Like what actually happened? I got up and went to the bedroom. I pulled out my phone and called the venue. I canceled the reservation. I called the caterer. I canceled. I called the photographer. Same thing. I lost every deposit. About $3,400 total. Gone. Tara followed me into the bedroom and heard the last call. She said, what are you doing? I said, I'm canceling the wedding. She said, you can't just cancel our wedding. I said, there is no wedding. There's no money. There's no trust. There's nothing. She grabbed my arm and said, we can fix this. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. I said, a mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. You hid $13,000 in withdrawals, lied to my face, and bankrolled your ex-boyfriend's gaming setup with the money I earned working overtime for 8 months. She called her mom that night. Her mom called me and said, Tara told me you canceled the wedding over a disagreement about money. I said, did she tell you she gave $13,000 of our wedding savings to her ex-boyfriend? Dead silence. Then she said, she told me she lent money to a friend in need. I said, the friend is Leo. The need was a gaming computer. Her mom didn't call me again. Last I heard, Tara asked Leo for the money back. He blocked her.